Welcome to the Sacramento Dugout Show. Tonight I am very excited. I've been wanting these people on my show for quite a while because they're extremely passionate, just like Dominic, Dante, and myself are. So from the Character Combine, Deb, mcCollum, Josh Takimoto, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for being on our show. So please, just so people can get familiar with you guys, you guys have a Character Combine podcast, but how'd you guys meet?
So do you want to? Do you want me to?
This always happens when we start our podcast.
We don't.
It's always
you guys have two different stories?
We both try to say something and then one talks over the other.
That's how it always goes.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'll start. So
yeah.
I started attending a church and met his wife and his sister at a Bible study, and I pretty much forced myself into their lives and said, "You're going to be my friend, so let's hang out." And so that's how I met. So I met his wife first. And then that's how I met Josh.
Yeah, and so
essentially.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so once they met and we started seeing Deb around more. She was hanging out at the house and hanging out with my wife and sister. I kind of got to know her a little bit, but I heard she played softball, which my competitive side was super excited because I'm like, oh, perfect. We have someone that we can ask to play softball on our softball teams. Wasn't even thinking about the podcast or anything else, but then as we started to get to know her, I realized that, okay, she was a coach. She coached at Sheldon, which is a really high-level softball program. And then I started following her on Instagram and realized that she had this passion for not only coaching, but also strength and conditioning young athletes. And so I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And then the more I thought about it, I was thinking about this podcast for quite a while, and the two ideas just kind of meshed. I'm like, oh, well, why don't I ask Deb to see if she wants to be a part of this podcast? And we had a conversation about it, and it was a really good conversation, I thought. And then I think you went to my wife's baby shower, and then when my wife came home, she's like, hey, she seems really excited about the podcast, but you may want to talk to her because I don't think she realizes that you want her to be the co-host. I think she realizes, hey, maybe I'll be a guest. It's like, oh, and so then sure enough, when I talked to her again, she's like, oh, you want me to be a co-host?
Yeah.
That's completely different, but I'm definitely down to do it, and then we kind of just got started.
Yeah, I could have sworn he only asked me, oh, come on once, and it was through text, so I guess I kind of misread it, and then, so yeah, when he finally called me and explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, he wants me to be his co-host, like this.
Yeah,
that's so
this
cool.
Is cool, So you guys are definitely
cool.
involved in the fitness side of it, and with fitness. So when you're working with individuals and training people, everybody's an individual, and so how do you deal with when, especially coming towards strength conditioning, and then their mental toughness, So how do you know how to push that individual to get what they want out of themselves and what you see in them?
Oh gosh, the strategy I use when I'm training my athletes, I just push them as far as they can go until they're gonna puke or until I don't know.
I'm sure they love.
Yeah, they love it. And so, you don't really know how far they can push themselves until you get to know them for a while. Like if I just have one training session with a group of girls, I'm not gonna know until maybe even several months in. Then I start seeing patterns of how far each girl, athlete can push themselves because I've trained guys as well. So I don't know. I guess I just try to push them as far as they can go. I just tell them what to do and yell at them, and
which is awesome though, because a lot of times, especially younger athletes, and I don't do any of the strength and conditioning, so I'm just speaking about it. But the cool thing is when, especially a younger athlete, sometimes they don't realize how far they can push themselves because they've never had someone barking in their ear saying, hey, let's really see how far you can go. And so when you have someone who's passionate about strength and conditioning like Deb, then it's like they get to that point where they might puke. It's like, oh, this kind of sucks. And they go a little bit further. It's like, you know what? That wasn't as bad as I thought. And then they keep going, and then they look back at when they started the whole program, and it's like, oh, I've come a long way. So, I think it's kind of cool because at first you don't even realize how far they can push themselves. But then once then you realize, okay, I can get them to start believing in themselves, which is a really cool part of it. I wish I could do the strength and conditioning because that's such an awesome thing to push them to.
It might not be strength and conditioning, but when you talk to individual athletes, or when you do your motivational speaking and you talk to cross-country teams, football teams, and you go to different high schools and you're working with those youths, that's part of picking their brain and working in sort of the strength and conditioning, but it's all mental. So when you're talking to those kids, like she's talking to her training people, what are you trying to get out of those kids, or what are you trying to get across to those kids when you're talking with them?
Yeah, so the thing that when I first started with Character Combine in 2011, the thing that I love most, because I actually attended a Character Combine in 2010, the year before. I was mentoring.
Was Tony there? Is that how you met Tony?
I think I met Tony even further back than that. But yeah, no, he's been a great part of the Character Combine. But I went in 2010 and they had this octagon, UFC octagon set up in the gym, and they had these incredible speakers. Jerry Emanuel was a speaker, nice. All these incredible speakers, and I'm like, man, this is really cool. But the thing I loved about the vision of Character Combine was they didn't water down competition to promote character. It was one and the same. Live at the highest level, live with integrity and honor and character, but give your very best and compete at the highest level as well. So once I started getting kind of ingrained in the culture of the Character Combine, I realized, okay, I want to really infuse that into my talk. So anytime I had the opportunity to talk to a high school, sports team, that's what I really wanted to get across. Is like, hey, when you're on the field, when you step on the field in practice or in a game, you're here to give your very best. And if you're not going to, then what's the point of being out here? And then those things translate into life. Jason Harper, the Character Combine founder, he always says, the things you learn on the field will hopefully one day translate to the classroom, to the boardroom, to the family room, and it will affect all areas of life, because that's what sports do. That's the beautiful thing about sports, and that's something we talk about quite a bit on our podcast, is that what the disciplines you learn on the field translate to life, hard work, character, discipline, pushing yourselves mentally. Right. So I try to get all of those things across to them, and I try to do my best to speak from a place that's authentic. I didn't play any college ball. So I don't have a high level of athletic experience, but I try to just be very honest with them and say, hey, this is what I've done. This is the challenges that I've faced. And then, this is what I see you guys, one day being able to accomplish.
Well, then let's work on you guys then. You guys both being very positive influences to the community.
We try.
I think so. And so how do you guys keep up your tenacity and your drive with what you're trying to do? What pushes you, Deb?
Oh gosh. Well, I just try to continue to improve on, being the best version of myself. And athletics has been a huge part of my life. And I believe in making a difference in others' lives. And that's why I coach. I'm a teacher, and that's why I love training my athletes. Is because I was gonna bounce something off of what he said earlier. I also use the mental toughness when I'm training my girls. Like I talk to them a lot while they're training. Well, I'm like, for example, let's say I'm having them hold a plank. And they're like about to give up, and I talk to them and tell them, you need to think about what you're doing. It's all in your head. Like, you can do it. And so I'm there to give them some positive encouragement. And so I have to do that for myself as well in my life. I have to constantly tell myself and talk to myself. And it's taken me many times to just pull myself out of my body, like an out of body experience, and nice. And literally look at myself and coach myself to just keep going, because along with just with athletes and in sports and working out and fitness, it's easier to give up sometimes.
Very true.
And it's harder to keep going and keep pushing yourself. And then in my own life, it's easier to give up and stop. But so it takes me having to flip the script on myself and coach myself, and it's not fun, and I don't like it sometimes.
You can't push yourself.
Yeah, I annoy myself sometimes. Like I annoy my girls. They're sometimes they hate me. They look at me and they're like, I hate Ginger. I love you, but I hate you right now. Like when I'm training them, and I'll tell myself that too, because I know you're right, like when I'm coaching myself, so I literally have to talk to myself and coach myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I see too, what I do, especially now that I'm coaching a lot of the younger kids, 9 up to 12.
Right.
They're out there stiff as can be, because they're seeing other kids that play on other teams,
sure.
And they haven't really talked to them. So now it's like, you're not my friend. You're not supposed to be my friend.
This is the enemy. Why are we standing next to each other?
Yeah. But and I see that when I'm out there. So when I create teams and we have little competitions, I don't let brothers be on the same team. I see you in the Cardinals hat, and I see you in the Orioles hat. Let's put you together.
Yeah.
And I truly, the kids don't know it, but I am constantly working on the mental part of the game.
Right.
Just by peer pressure or stress, and just say, hey, Tim just threw that strike. He called low and outside. He was able to hit that target. Now it's up to you. Are you going to be able to do that? And you can see them get stiff up. And when they start, I go ahead, step off for a second. I go, you're so stiff. What is our process? Let's breathe.
Right.
Let's focus through. What does it take to hit that spot? visualize it first. Mentally talk yourself through it. You know, glove front, you know, separation, hip
Sure.
drive, push off, all that stuff. And as soon as you mentally prepare yourself and you have that little quick conversation in your head, I want you to go ahead on your breath, start your delivery, attack that ball and throw. And all of a sudden, they might not hit the ball every time, but they're coming very close. So the kids are now, parents are actually learning too, going, I used that little tactic that you did.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So it's really just, you know, the kids are, they want to learn.
Absolutely.
But they're not going to ask very many questions. So you got to be able to observe what type of child they are, what drives them, how they listen, what words, you know, communicate well with them. And it, you know, every kid is, you know, totally different. And I think that is where we are. Even though we've been the same for years, when it comes to pushing yourself, when it comes to you know, talking, you know, with your motivational talks, or, you know, I'm going to go, you know, spend some time with my newborn baby daughter today. You know, you're always mentally planning and preparing before you decide on what you want to do, and that's just preparation of being athletes and being educators and being involved in the system. And I realized that, you know, kids don't have to ask questions. They want the information. Just give them all the information that you have, and let them feed off that and see what makes it work for them. And you're wearing a shirt right now, something that you've been involved with, you know, for a while. You know, why don't you talk about that?
Oh, so this is just a routine baseball shirt.
There we go. Routine. That's all part of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The
it's
more
my favorite
routine
baseball
it is,
company.
and the more you make it a regiment, the easier it is for you.
Absolutely.
Are they paying you to wear that?
I wish. That would be awesome. So if you guys are out there, talk to me. I'll definitely endorse your stuff. No, I love this company, and just I feel like they, yeah, absolutely. We're saying routine, the everyday routine of life, but then also. It just in my opinion, it just captures the spirit of baseball too. Absolutely. All their apparel and just the inside jokes of a baseball player. I think they just do it better than anybody. So that's why I wear their shirts. I have a closet full of their stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, I like what it represents.
Absolutely.
And you know what it's like once you get talking and you're talking about something that you're passionate. Time flies.
It just
and
goes.
So we just broke into this one segment, but we'll have to be right back after these messages. All right, you guys from the Character Combine, Josh, Deb, once again, let's just keep this thing rolling. So we're talking about mental toughness and, you know, preparing and all that stuff. You know, I really enjoy, you write a blog, and Gingerlike,
And Gingerly-like,
And Gingerly-like.
It's a mouthful, I don't know what I was thinking. I bought the domain, so I can't change it now.
I'm stuck with it.
And you've talked about, you know, stress and anxieties, and that's pretty much what people have been putting on themselves for quite a while. So I'm just, you know, I've dealt with anxiety, you know, before I go on camera. You know, it just seems like when the lights come on, it all goes away. When I was a theater major, I would be a nervous wreck. But then all of a sudden, when the curtain come up, it would go away. But it's something that stress and anxiety seems to be self-inflicted. And you know, with peer pressure and everything going on, and especially in baseball, you don't want to be the one that makes the mistake. You don't want to be the one that, you know, costs the game. Somebody has to. It's going to happen some way. Somebody's going to win it. Somebody's going to lose it. But you know, with the stress and anxieties, and with why is it that seems like these days, why are people seem to putting so much stress and pressures on themselves lately?
Well, I think, I mean, and this is just I am in no means an expert in this area, but in my opinion, I'm not an expert in anything, right? We always say that. We're like,
we do always say that. That takes a lot of the stress and the
anxiety. Takes the pressure off of me. Don't want to get any angry emails. I think people who suffer with anxiety and stress, and it's a lot of people. It's like almost everyone in some level. But the ones maybe the most are, I want to say, like perfectionists, or expect perfection from themselves. So they put they put all this pressure on yourself. Not only that, but I believe that they are also not wanting to let others down and afraid of what people will think of them if they let them down. So not only is it pressure within themselves that they're perfectionists, but they want other people to see that they are capable of doing something. So they're afraid of failure, so that when they do fail, which we all fail inevitably, like half our life we're going to fail at something, half our life is going to be struggles, and it's life. And so when when the inevitable happens, then I think that's where the more stress, more anxiety. So translating that, you know, to a game, you know, when you're an athlete to a game, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. You got to be able to handle pressure being an athlete. So if you already have all this stress and anxiety, think about batting in baseball and softball. If you bat 500, which is 50. That's amazing. But that means you still fail 50% of the time. So a good batting average is like 300 to 400. You're only successful 30 to 40% of the time. Like, you're failing more than you are succeeding. So sometimes, I try to have my athletes think about that when they fail, and then they keep thinking about it, and it's a mental game. And then they're stuck in their head. And so it's hard sometimes for athletes to get themselves out of that, to recognize that they have failed at this. But failure on the field and off the field in life is a chance for growth.
Absolutely.
When they fail at something on the field, they learn how to do it in a different way so that they can be successful. And for athletes and people, it's hard for us to change the way we think and to think about it that way, rather than I'm a failure, I just failed at something, and then there goes your downward spiral of I suck, I can't do anything, or whatever. Insert your caption here of whatever you say. But I just think that athletes need to be taught how to change their way of thinking, which can be a tough thing to do because every athlete is different.
Absolutely.
And every athlete is different with how they think. Some of them handle stress really well, and some of them are a basket case. And some of them, I look at them, I'm like, how are you an athlete? Like, you can't even handle it. Well, and that was me too when I was an athlete at point. Like, I had to coach myself, if my coaches weren't coaching me. So I can't even remember what your question was. I keep talking now.
That's how the podcast goes.
Yeah, our podcast
and
does
like
this. We just keep going.
Which is a great thing, because one question leads to many other questions.
Absolutely.
Right.
We're always talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But you played in high school sports.
Yeah.
Okay, in high school baseball specifically.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yep.
All right. So in your high school days, from your freshman year to your senior year, what would you say your main focal point of growth was for yourself?
That's an interesting question for me, because I've talked about it a little
It
bit.
doesn't have to be on the athletic side either.
Oh no, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But for me, it definitely was, because my freshman and sophomore year played quite a bit. Got to the junior and senior levels, didn't play much at all. And so in the moment, that's really frustrating. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from it, especially looking back now, is that I still worked hard. I still put in the time and energy. I knew there was a certain point where you just know, okay, as hard as you try, you're probably still not going to see the field. That's okay, because in life there's going to be moments where you don't get what you want. Does that give you an excuse not to work hard? Absolutely not. You still have to work hard. You still have to put in the energy and the time and the effort, because if that's the right thing to do, then you just got to keep going. So in the midst of the frustration and the not getting playing time and all of that, it's like, well, you got to keep working hard, because there's really no excuse for you not to. Right. And so I think looking back, that's probably the biggest thing I took away from it. And something we've talked about a lot about is, a lot of these people at high levels of their career tend to have a background in sports. And that doesn't mean that they played at the high levels of college or even high levels of high school
recreational
level. They could have been like me, didn't play very much at all, but those elements of their sport are still translating to the boardroom or to whatever career they're pursuing. And so once I saw that, I'm like, okay, so this really did benefit me. Even though I didn't get much playing time, it's still going to help me in later moments in life.
You still made it a part that you were going to be a part of the team, and you weren't going to be a distraction.
Absolutely.
Which is what every coach wants, because I'm sure, especially working with Maryjo, you pretty much have a contract with me when you come and show up. This is our team contract. These are our these are our rules. This is what we abide by. This is our character, and this is how we conduct ourselves. Right. And if you're not going to follow these rules, you will be sitting on the bench. And you get the gentlemen and the guys and the gals that are all studs, and they get into that relaxed moment, and they tend to have some sort of episode or say something backhandedly, and if that's your guidebook, then that person needs to be taken out and set down.
Right.
But what I always teach the kids that are on the bench, you always have an opportunity to play as long as you fight for that spot.
Right.
If you're going to outdo them in practice, if you're going to show me more of an aggressive, if you're going to work hard and prove that you deserve that chance, you are going to get that chance as far as I'm concerned. And if anybody on the field is going to take a step back and slide and not give me my 100, you are opening up the door for all these people, and it tends to bring the team together. You don't want that bad seed.
No, that's absolutely, and that's something I've talked to athletes before in my team talks. It's like, hey, if you're not playing right now, you still have to put the work in, because you have to be prepared for your moment. You can't just all of a sudden, hey, it's my turn to go, and then be ready for the moment. You have to always be preparing for the moment. And so be ready if the opportunity presents itself. And if you're a starter, every single day you still need to work hard because you need to show everybody why you're a starter. It's not just the talent, it's your work ethic too. And so I think you can really use what you're saying on both sides and motivate both the players that aren't getting much playing time as well as the starters who are getting plenty of playing time, and use that concept to really push them. It's like, hey, everybody's got to keep working hard because, like you said, someone's coming after your position. So you either need to keep it or you're fighting for a spot.
And I tell the guys it's not just in sports. The debate team has the same thing. I go, and marching band has the most competition around. I want to be the number one trumpet. I don't want to be the 8th trumpet. I want the solos. And so and it tends, what I see, as long as everybody is pushing together, you're pushing in the right direction.
Yeah.
And Sheldon softball, that's pretty much what it's all about. It is pure team, team ethic. Everybody.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive stuff there. So I'm sure you've seen that quite a bit in the 5 years you've been there.
I have. I've been there for the past 5 years. I'm not coaching this season. Maryjo is not happy with me, but I love you, Maryjo. But it's just, and it's not a forever thing.
Why don't you call her Coachy?
Coachy.
That's true. That's true.
I know. I call her Coachy.
I don't think I've ever heard you really call her Maryjo.
I know. That was weird.
That's a good point. I like that.
I apologize. Cut. I take that back. Coachy. Oh, I just dropped my mic. Sorry.
Mic drop.
This is about what our podcast is. Yeah.
This is what happens. Sorry. I've had the privilege of coaching there. When I first got there, I remember stepping on the field, and I had coached the previous 2 years at just different schools in the Central Valley. So this was my first time coming up to Northern California, and I remember stepping on the field, and I remember just being blown away by just the organization of the program. Not only that, how they ran practices and just the girls and how competitive they are, but just the environment and culture of the program itself, in which, of course, Coachy Maryjo is amazing at just motivating them and encouraging them, and just the way
getting the best out of everybody.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I would find myself sitting amongst the girls and just like this, like I was one of, she's motivating me too. And so, just that being able to talk to your athletes and just explain things to them, like, look, this is what it is, like just what you just said about if you're not playing, and you need to make sure that you're working hard, and hey, starters, this is not your spot forever, like you better not get comfortable. And so just by explaining the expectations of to them is huge. And that's what, since I've been there, that's pretty much what happens in the program, and that's why the culture and the team environment and the team itself is just really successful.
And that's part of Maryjo in you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, let's talk more about your guys' podcast. You guys have, I believe, 13 episodes just so far this season.
Yeah,
we got some in the bank just in case.
A few in the bank. We just released episode 13, I guess last night or this morning.
Yeah.
So
So for people that want to hear, it's a podcast you should definitely check out.
Oh, thank you.
It's this show's all about the community, but it's also about pride, passion, and togetherness, honestly. And that's exactly what I get out of you guys. So for somebody that wants to listen to your podcast, where can they find that?
So they can pretty much go almost anywhere that podcasts are found, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, all of those places. I think it's tough not to find it. So
just Google it. And then we're on Twitter, right? At Sports Character.
At Sports Character.
I've memorized this. I've had to say this. He's made me say it at the ending of our podcast.
Go ahead.
Twitter, I know, right? Twitter, I'm going to mess it up now. Twitter at Sports Character, Instagram at Character Combine, and then Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn now.
Yeah, so all the links to the podcast are on those social media platforms. So.
And we'll put all those links on the episode. You'll probably see some right here in front of the screen. But hey, Josh, Deb, I really appreciate you guys coming out and being on the show.
We appreciate you inviting us.
I just truly want to say thank you for what you do for the community, and for you, Sheldon High School, and the young ladies, and hey, keep talking to those athletes and those teams. I mean, they need to hear your word, and I'm very proud that you guys are on my show. And once again, this is the Sacramento Dugout Show. For Josh and Deb, Dominic and Dante, thank you and good night.